Well, good evening. In case you don't know, my name is Brian Zeke, and I do want to thank you for spending your time here today with this evening with us. I know it's we always try and figure out the best time to do these things to kind of fit into schedules or whatnot. But I've been saying, let's treat this like a dinner seminar, have some food and drink and let's see if we can learn a few things here. And as you can see on the screen, the name of this presentation is How to Survive Retirement Without Running Out of Money. And I don't think it's not good to run out of money anytime, but especially in retirement. So we've kind of determined everybody can hear us, all right? So and again, I'm always happy to talk to anybody offline later on if you have any really specific questions. So I'm guessing a lot of you, this is probably not your first webinar or seminar, or even listen to someone like me present. The first thing I want to mention is that if you've never really done anything coming out of an event like this, probably not your fault. There's a lot of information out there, and quite frankly, it can be a bit overwhelming. And many times, I know I get marketed to a lot, and it's really, and you get a lot of information out there, and I see what goes on out there, and people are just hit with all kinds of different pieces of information. It's really overwhelming. And if you've been concerned in the past that you can't succeed with planning for retirement, I really want to put those fears to rest. You can really do this. You just need the right help and the right guidance to get you along the way. Somebody has to teach you a few things, and that's the important part here. Because Wall Street and the big banking companies want to believe that your retirement is going to depend on them and this big pile of money, and that the bigger that pile of money, the better your retirement will be. And I'll say it's good to have more money. I'm not saying that, but that is truly not the answer here, because I think they are wrong, and they have their own reasons for wanting you to think that, but it's really not true. If you've ever thought that banks actually want you to be dependent on them, you're probably right. They don't benefit necessarily from you succeeding, and they benefit from having your money. They want to keep that money with them, and the difference with us, we're right here with you side by side. We are a locally owned financial firm, and we answer to you. And I might add, our business is depending on us doing right by our clients and teaching our clients. And we actually do care about your success, and want you to live that retirement of your dreams. And that's that's why we're here. I know everyone here has an idea of what they want their retirement to look like. I want to show you how to make that happen tonight. Now, this is Ira and Vera, and this is my parents. Unfortunately, they're no longer with us. My parents divorced when I was a teenager, and it was actually a good decision, to tell you the truth. But they end up living both a happy, long lives, but financially really different. My dad retired with a pension, Social Security, and had some savings. My mom, on the other hand, retired with some savings and Social Security. Well, what I know now, what I didn't know then, is the outcome was really predictable. My mom's savings eventually ran out, and for many years, till the end of her life, all she had was Social Security. And this really did leave a burden on the kids to help her along the way. And that led to tension among family members. That's the kind of way that happens, because each could or was willing to offer kind of an uneven amount of help. And by having to offer that help, it actually reduced lifestyle dollars that they had and money that we could put away for our retirement. And on the other hand, my dad lived his life comfortably, hardly extravagantly, but comfortably and happy. The interesting thing is, when my dad died, my mom was able to collect his Social Security. So she actually got a raise in her later years. And so her last several years of life was a little more comfortable and a little less strain on everybody else, kind of thing. I hear that a lot from clients. They said, I just don't want to be a burden for my kids. And I hear that an awful lot. So if you're anything like our other clients, then I know what you're thinking now, that you're getting close to retirement. You've worked your entire life, paying off your mortgage, sending your kids to school, working in an office or building or business for last 30, 40 years, and approaching retirement. It feels like you barely have had time to save and prepare for retirement. And it's one thing I always say about retirement: there's not a price tag on it, and so people really don't know what they need to retire either. Now that you see retirement in sight, you're realizing that you may be unprepared, or you're not sure if you are prepared. And not sure how, if you haven't put the time and effort into planning that you should have, and now you're trying to find out what to do. You're feeling anxiety over the fact that you might be late to the game and wish you had done more to prepare. And I'm guessing you're here because you're interested. You want to learn. Well, so if you go onto the internet, start searching about financial planning, retirement, investment advice, all you do is kind of proceed down that black hole that is retirement planning advice, where everyone's selling their widget, and you only end up more confused, more anxious, and in the end, you have more questions than you have answers. And that's maybe what drove you here, just trying to find those answers. If this situation sounds familiar, then this webinar, I think, might be perfect for you. Can help you sleep better tonight, knowing that there is a solution and you're in the right place. Because the goal of this presentation is to show you how to not run out of money in retirement, and the 5 critical steps you must do to protect your assets. I know this sounds like a bold claim, and that you might be skeptical about how doing these 5 things will give you a lifetime of income. But in the last 20 years or so, I've worked with many hundreds of clients. I've seen those who have had success and those who have not. And the 5 steps I'm sharing today are what I believe are the 5 things that you really can do to live that retirement of your dreams. What this really means is that you'll have more money to spend in retirement on things that you want, instead of worrying day and night about where your next monthly paycheck will come from for the next 25 or so years in retirement. You can instead worry about where you want to go on your next vacation, what grandchild you want to spoil this week, and focus on things that you want to do for the rest of your life. It's like the concept of vacation off retirement. That's kind of a cool concept. Now, I know this sounds too good to be true, and I'm going to give you a little example here. This is an actual client who I helped using these exact 5 critical steps, and these are the results. We'll talk more about this during the presentation, but before they met, their chance of successful retirement was only about 41%, meaning they would not be able to have the income they wanted to make it last their entire life without asking them to save more, or in other words, spend less now. We're able to change a few things around, and in the end, their chance of successful retirement went up about 95 to 95%. And we'll talk more about this later, because you really should stay at the end of this presentation to find out those 5 critical steps that everyone must take to have that successful retirement. And I will be offering our own proprietary analysis that my team spent lots of dollars on creating for clients exactly like you. At the end of this presentation, you can request an appointment by going to this link, and I'm going to put it in the chat box here. And that's so everybody see that? That's surfcfinancialgroup.com/schedule. You can click on that link anytime during the presentation and get started. You basically get to my calendar. We also want to make sure you know who this presentation is not for. If you are the type of person looking for some type of way to get rich quick scheme, then this webinar is definitely not for you. Because today we are going to be discussing a step-by-step process that anyone can use in order to create a safe and predictable income stream in retirement. If you are the type of person looking for some type, well, sorry, just did that. Second, if you're looking for the hottest stock pick, so you can earn the highest rate of return possible, then please look someplace else, because this webinar, we believe that people can only properly take risk once they have their a retirement plan in place. And we'll get into that a little bit more and why that is. And lastly, if you want to figure out the best time to buy Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, non-registered investments, then this really is a wrong webinar. If you're looking for legitimate strategies that people use to have paychecks show up in their bank account every month, then this is for you. The goal of this presentation is to show you the only way to have a successful retirement and the 5 critical steps you have to do to protect it. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to show you a really special report that we had created, can actually analyze your current plan, make sure you're on track for successful retirement. And that's what you see there on the screen. And we'll be talking more about that later on in the presentation. I love this. This report is so, I'm so glad we've put this together. Before we get into it, a few things to mention. The disclaimer. Now, obviously, this is not specific. It's impossible to get to specific when you have multiple people on a webinar, but we have to do our disclaimers. Now, this is where I get to bore you and talk about me. Some of my designations, and you see my team on the screen, and I'm really lucky to have them, believe me. And me, I've been at this for quite a while. I do have an RCP where special training in building retirement income, also CLTC, lifetime member, long-term, as far as long-term care, Corporation for Long-Term Care. So, and I got, the main reason I studied these things is because I just found them to be some of the critical things when it comes to retirement planning. I've done a lot of other training as far as efficiency with money and things like that. And we teach people about all kinds of different things, mortgages and all kinds of stuff that we don't do, but we definitely teach the best way to handle these things. Now, my personal side, and you can see this is my immediate family. See there's Dee Dee, my significant other, who I'm very thankful she's around, and my daughter and son-in-law, Greg, and that's Janae. And this is taken on the Huntington Beach Pier a couple of years ago, kind of a nice 80-degree Christmas day, the kind I like, nice and warm. My daughter and my son-in-law is actually a rock and roll singer. Great voice. If anyone gets a chance to ever check them out. My daughter's exceptionally talented. Dee Dee's probably the smartest person I know. And I like to play tennis and all that kind of stuff. Here's the rest of our family. This is our insane cat, Bosco. He's getting ready. He's pushing up on his first birthday here in a month or so. We adopted him. He was a little stray. And then there's he certainly turned our lives upside down. And my daughter and son-in-law's dog, Woodstock, cutest dog in the world. And that was us at Bosco didn't attend that thing. It was pre-Bosco, but that's the rest of the immediate family. Now, back to business. I wanted to open this presentation, you showing this photo. There's a trader on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange around late March of 2020. This is basically the height of what we're all aware of, the coronavirus pandemic. At its lowest point, the market dropped over 30 points. Not as bad as 2008, but it really bottomed out. And I chose this photo because this man was basically all of us, or a lot of us at this moment. If you look at him, microphone up, he's slouched over, he's lost all hope and probably feels like he has no control. Well, he probably didn't. of everything going on around him. There's nothing he could really do. And I'm sure many people felt this the same way when they saw over a third of their retirement savings just disappear. Just in a blink of an eye, and all those years, all that hard-earned money gone just like that. Luckily, a lot of it came back, but there is interesting calculations around that. But now there's a time and place for when you should be investing in the market, which I'm going to show you exactly when the right time is later in this presentation. But it's times like these that kind of get you to thinking, is there a better way for all of us to save and spend money in our retirement? We should never feel like our future is out of control, or that our savings is left up to buying and hoping, and that we don't experience our crisis. And I have to say that, to me, when retirement, that's got to be the scariest time if you've already retired, to experience something like that. If you do a little research, the way Americans save and spend in retirement, this illustration shows you the traditional retirement income model, the model many of our parents and even grandparents retired off of. You'll notice the foundation was built from a pension and then Social Security. The base level of retirement income was protected, guaranteed for the rest of their life, and the majority of the risk was on the employer to deliver on their promises. All of our parents and even grandparents had savings accounts, which you'll see in that third graphic right up there. The message for that was a focus on assets, those assets on rate of return, and because they had guaranteed income coming in. Because you grow out your assets as much as possible and try to get that highest rate of return. And with this advice, they would go out and they could risk their money in the stock market. If the market crashed and they lost a bunch of money, it didn't matter that much, because the majority of the retirement income was coming from protected income sources. So they could afford that loss and move on and wait for the markets to come back. And, and that's where a lot of bucket strategies really come into play. And did you ever notice whenever you talk to, people from those generations, parents, grandparents, they always talk more in terms of income. They were getting maybe $1,500 here from Social Security, $1,800 from their company, and getting a little bit of money out of investments. Life's good. They never talked about assets. Well, that model's kind of broken. What does it look like today? Well, the model's completely flipped. Pensions are all but gone. We're very close to being gone. I know Boeing just got rid of theirs, offering people payouts to get rid of their pension. We'll all be still receiving some sort of Social Security, but notice now there's a small amount of protected retirement income. Where's the rest of the income to come from? Well, the majority of the risk is now on you to make sure you have enough money to last throughout retirement. Yet the message, and this is the important part, the message we're all being conditioned to believe is to continue to focus on growing assets as much as possible and get that highest rate of return. We are being given the same advice our parents and grandparents retired of, except now we really do have a totally different set of circumstances. And now we're being told this every day on news stations, TV shows, commercials, everywhere. I certainly remember. Does everybody remember this commercial? This is ING's marketing campaign. It's called Your Number. Everybody walked around with this number over their head or holding on to it. And that was supposed to be the big number they needed for retirement. So you would watch this commercial. Then you hear Dave Ramsey, a retirement guru, saying, got to do this, stick with mutual funds, divide your portfolio, do these aggressive funds. And I can make a lot of commentary on Dave Ramsey, a retirement guru, but that's another story. And then you flip the channel and you see Mad Money Jim Cramer. He's telling you, don't invest in this product. Then he hits the button, invest in this one. Now, this will get you the highest return. Now, I might add, he also told us to buy Lehman the day before it crashed. It's messages like these that we're being told every single day: focus on assets and try to get the largest amount of money and you'll be happy. With this type of advice, we're now hearing about so many retirees ending up what's called income shortfall. It's when the amount of assets saved up is simply not enough to generate the income they need to cover expenses. It really is happening all over our country. I just grabbed these articles recently, but we're hearing and seeing it all the time. People are running out of money because the current advice has failed us. Making assets the priority is leaving us exposed to so many risks in retirement. Risks like long-term care, deflation, inflation, regulation, longevity, income taxes, and more. And the advice that's out there is a kind of information overload I was kind of going into earlier. You go to a website and they're telling you one website and they're telling you how you need to prepare for long-term care. You visit another site and they'll tell you it's all about secrets of return. Go to another, it's about the stock market. How are you supposed to properly plan for retirement when everybody's saying something different? Now, there are a lot of risks in retirement, as you can see, but the ultimate success of your retirement is going to depend on how you address these 5 key risks. The first one really is longevity. I actually call longevity the #1 risk multiplier. Just think about it. If you live longer, you'll be exposed to the stock market longer. If you live longer, you'll see higher prices through inflation. Again, if you live longer, you're more likely to need long-term care. The stock market is obviously another key risk because of its volatility. Not many people know this, but income taxes likely be one of your largest expenses in retirement. And lastly, inflation. As years go by, things you currently pay for will go up: food, travel, gas, and so on. Yeah, medical costs can bankrupt you, especially a lot of people don't understand, have the misconception that Medicare covers long-term care, but it doesn't. So yes. And that's why I really believe the only way for successful retirement is not through an asset plan, but rather an income plan that protects your money from the 4 key risks. This is a massive paradigm shift that we teach our clients. When it comes to planning for retirement, it's not about the amount of assets you have, but rather how you're going to turn those assets into income. And I've identified the 5 critical steps that, when done properly, and all 5 working together, creates a retirement income plan as predictable and protection at its core. I always found it fascinating that we live our whole life, for the most part, on income. And then all of a sudden now we have to figure out how to withdraw and how much and how long and everything else. Now, I call these 5 critical steps retirement income framework. It's kind of like GPS, a roadmap for retirement. We figure out where you are today, where you want to be, and the most effective and efficient way for you to get there. This process allows you to focus on the things that matter most in retirement. Things like, seeing grandkids. We want to make sure you have an income stream that you're able to take that trip to see them, or maybe you'll always wanted to see the Vatican, or finally start that hobby you've been meaning to do. Whatever your bucket list may be, we've created a 5-step process that allows you to spend your money with confidence in retirement, regardless of the economy or even the stock market. Whether we're in that bear market or bull market, doesn't matter. We want to be able to live the retirement we always dreamed of. And now I'm going to spend the rest of the evening walking you through this framework. And again, at the end of the presentation, I'm going to show you how you can implement all these things right away. Now, here it is. Ta-da. This is the retirement income framework. I'm excited to go over with you tonight. First, let's go over a good place to start. Number 1, identify. We first need to determine your current financial status before we do anything else. Now, I love this analogy. This is a typical junk drawer, whether it's in the kitchen, dining room, computer area. Everybody has one of these, right? You have some pens in there, a notepad, headphones, scissors, keys. All these items are useful by themselves, but when you throw it all together and have it in one place, it can be overwhelming. I actually think I have a couple of these. And this is what most people's retirement plan looks like. They have Social Security over here, a savings account over there, maybe some life insurance through an employer, some money in an IRA, and maybe some money in a 401k. All useful things by themselves. But as far as knowing how each of these accounts are going to work together to create income, that's where most people fail. That's where, they're not taught how to do it. They spend all their time building up their net worth instead of how to figure out income. In fact, Robert Merton, he's an economist, Nobel Prize laureate. He published an article in the Harvard Business Review entitled "The Crisis in Retirement Planning." In that article, he stated, "Our approach to savings is all wrong. We need to think about monthly income, not net worth." So within this first step, it's important to take the time to pull out that retirement drawer and figure out what you got in there. When you're done with that, you need to get the net worth mindset out of your head and need to start thinking in terms of monthly income and calculate the amount of expenses you're going to have on a monthly basis. A good starting place to figure out what would be to ask yourself two questions. What do I need my retirement income to do? Which are your essential expenses, like groceries, clothing, housing, insurance, and all this stuff. And then ask yourself, what do I want my retirement income to do? These are your discretionary expenses, things like dining out, vacations, hobbies, all that. And if you think about it, it's kind of how you live your life when you're working, right? You have a certain amount of money coming in. Part of it is paying your basic expenses. Some of it hopefully is going to savings. And the rest is what you have fun on. So there's a guy I know, and he's a pretty good presenter, and he has a thing called paychecks and playchecks. I always liked it. I like to steal it because, you get your paycheck, you get those checks in that are, your paycheck that pays for the essentials, and the playchecks are for the fun. Here's an example. You may list everything out on a worksheet and calculate your essential expenses are somewhat around $5,000 a month, and your discretionary expenses maybe $2,000 a month. The essential monthly expenses is what I like to call your protected income number. Making sure you have a protected income stream coming in every single month that covers this amount should be your top priority in retirement. Keep this in mind as we move on to step 2. What's my protected income number? Yeah, you're right. You can actually have guaranteed income that is not affected by the stock market. And you can actually, there are certain ways you can actually use that volatility in your favor. So that was the first step, identify. The second step is a protect stage. I'm going to spend a majority of my time in here because I consider it the most important step. Now that you've figured out your expenses and identified your protected income number, you then need to make sure you have a protected income stream guaranteed to come in every single month that's going to cover that number. Time Magazine was quoted as saying, securing at least a base level of lifetime income should be every retiree's priority, at least if you want to live happily ever after. There are literal studies out there that say people with guaranteed lifetime incomes are happier than people who don't have guaranteed lifetime income. And I might add, I recently read a study that people actually with guaranteed lifetime income actually live longer. So nice combination, being happier and living longer. That kind of works. But why is this? Let me tell you a little bit of a story here. Anybody know what this picture is? I guess wave your hands or whatever. It's Death Valley Desert in California, one of the hottest places in the world. Some friends from the Northeast had always wanted to visit this desert. So they flew out to California, rented a car, and headed across the desert. Trip was a blast. Everyone was having a great time, but suddenly they noticed a sign that read, next gas station 100 miles. I've been there. They frantically looked down at their gas gauge and noticed they were at a quarter of a tank. Their happiness kind of quickly turned into fear. They shut off the air conditioning, they rolled down the windows, and it was getting really hot and uncomfortable in the car. They were not happy. They were pretty miserable. They all worried about what they should do next. One of the friends yelled out, push the gas pedal all the way to the floor, and then let's coast the entire way. Then another friend argued with him and said that wasn't the best approach. What they should do is softly press the pedal the entire way. The point here is that they knew they're going to run out of gas. They just didn't know when. Now, and when you look at the road to retirement, it kind of looks like this. A 65-year-old male, the retirement will average about 18 years. For a female, 20 years. And for a 65-year-old couple, 24 years. Keep in mind, these are averages. So many of us in this room will have retirements 20, 30 in this room, on this webinar. I'm used to doing this live, possibly 40 years. Retirees right now are miserable, much like our friends in Death Valley, because they know their money is going to run out. They just like that tank of gas. They just don't know when. And when they're being told all these opinions on what to do, but honestly, they have no clue. And if any of it's going to work with no clue, if any of it's going to work with a protected guaranteed income, it's like driving through Death Valley on a quarter of a tank, guaranteed never to run out. And that's why people are living happier lives when they have that guaranteed income. They have a level of predictability and protection. They're taking that number one risk, longevity, completely off the table. And I have to say, I see that in my clients when they know when we've started that income in and they see that income coming in every month, they relax quite a bit. They're not looking at the stock market every day anymore. And so it's amazing to watch it change. So we all know now that having a base level protected income is important. But where do we get it from? What does it look like? Here are the qualities that make a protected income. First, it has to be guaranteed for life. Not guaranteed to age 80, not guaranteed to age 75, 90, guaranteed for life, no matter how long you live. A steady paycheck coming in, guaranteed, and again, never to run out. Second, protected income has to be backed by the government or financial institution. We want the obligation to be on them, not us. Third, it needs to increase over time with inflation. This is going to help us in later years as costs go up. And last, it needs to increase each year you choose not to start your income. So if you decide to wait and continue working for another year or two, there should be a fixed percent that's given to you each year you choose to delay. In other words, if you're getting 5%, it should go up to 5.5 or something along those lines. So it's, and I'll show you some examples of that. So now that we have a definition of protected income, let's look at the three sources that fit this description. Here are the three. First is a pension. This is backed by an employer. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because most of us won't have the luxury of owning one of these. I have to say, when somebody comes in my office and I start working with them and they have a pension, I get kind of happy because it makes my job a little easier. In fact, CNN Money said only 4% of the private sector companies offer a pension. This is actually down from 60% in the early 80s. If you have one of these, you're pretty lucky. If you don't, we need to make sure you get the most out of the other two to help cover our protected income number. So the next one is Social Security, backed by the government. Social Security is a great source to create that base level protected income. And with hundreds of different ways to claim Social Security, it's important to know your options and maximize the amount you receive. And you're going to find this interesting because I do. And the takeaway you're going to find on this is don't look at Social Security in a vacuum. So, but basically, you do have the ability to claim Social Security between ages 62 and 70. This example shows a monthly benefit a person will receive at that age. Now, these are only examples. Your monthly benefits calculated off your specific working years. In this particular example, at this person's FRA, or full retirement age, there in the middle, they would receive $2,000 at full retirement. In this case, 66. If they choose to delay their claiming age, their Social Security benefit actually increases 8% each year they defer. In other words, the payout goes up 8% each year. And that is that increasing benefit I was sort of talking about earlier. It's guaranteed 8% increase every single year you delay. And this 8% applies to you too. There's a decision you need to make whether you want to claim Social Security early and get less money, or claim later and receive that 8% benefit each year. Another added benefit of Social Security is the inflation protection you get with it, where they'll actually increase your benefit to offset rising costs of inflation. Now, this doesn't happen every year, but only when the government deems it necessary. In other words, they do use a CPI and they shave a little off, but there's a million CPIs and I'm not sure they're always using the right one. So it's not maybe the greatest situation, but certainly it's something to help offset those rising costs of goods and services down the road. Now, let's take this monthly example and spread it out over a lifetime. This is the total amount of Social Security they would receive. It's broken down into 3 scenarios. The bottom gray portion is if you would have claimed at age 62. The blue is if they claimed at 66, and the light blue is up there is what they would have received if they delayed their benefit out to age 70. Now, the one thing I'll say there, we never want to delay past 70 because it stops going up after that. As you can see, there's a major difference between the claiming age 62 and 70. In fact, close to $400,000 difference. They would receive a total of $1.2 million if they just wait a few more years and claim a 70. Do you think an extra $400,000 could impact things you can do in retirement? Yeah. And I'll say this again, everybody's situation is different. Now, I'm not here to say everybody in this room should delay Social Security benefits, but what I'm saying, there's literally hundreds of different scenarios, believe it or not, 567 of them, to maximize your benefit. Things that impact the amount of Social Security you receive are your total working years, income, marital status, your health, the amount of your current savings, and more. The time you claim your Social Security may be the single biggest decision you make to your retirement, and it's important to work with somebody that's able to run all these different scenarios and help you determine your optimal claiming age based on your situation. And this is one of the things we do within the report I mentioned earlier, and we'll be going over that report later. You know, there's a lot of misunderstandings out there about Social Security. I think it's really an important thing. You know, but you do run a bit of a problem with Social Security. Here's an actual Social Security statement I downloaded off the government's website. If you zoom in a little further, states Social Security benefits are not intended to be your only income source when you retire. On average, Social Security will replace about 40% of your annual pre-retirement earnings. You will need other savings, investments, or pensions, or retirement accounts to live comfortably when you retire. You know, the key takeaway here is that Social Security will likely replace only about 40% of your current income. So even if you chose the best claiming option and got the most amount of benefit you possibly can, you still need to come up with probably another 60% from somewhere else. And I can almost guarantee you your protected income number is going to be higher than that 40%. So you need to make sure you make up that difference through other protected income sources. This leads me to the last and final source for protected income, which is annuity. Another misunderstood vehicle. An annuity is a kind of a personal Social Security or pension-like stream of guaranteed lifetime income from a top-rated insurance company. I say that's important, top-rated insurance company. It's like Social Security because you put money in, whether it's a lump sum or over a period of time, and in return, The insurance companies send you a steady paycheck every month the rest of your life, guaranteed. And much like government, annuities are paid out through a financial institution that's obligated and also regulated to deliver on their promises to you. You know, I have to say insurance companies, that's kind of what they're around for anyway. That's what they do. Life and annuity insurers, that's kind of their whole gig. But this is an example of a person putting money into annuity at age 62. If they choose to delay their claiming option, this particular policy will increase by 6% each year and every year, guaranteed. You know, annuities can even come with additional benefits of inflation protection, much like Social Security. Not only do you get a stream of guaranteed lifetime income, but you can choose to have an increasing income as well. Now, common concern I get about annuities is that they're loaded with fees. You can't access them. You get penalized if you terminate the contract. Well, some of that's true, and some, when you look at all the factors of annuities, of our clients feel the benefits greatly outweigh the costs. You get principal protection from market loss, guaranteed lifetime income, inflation protection, that's vital for retirement. And if you think about it, it's like Social Security, that too doesn't necessarily give you early access. You know, one thing I say there, when you're building a retirement or even a financial plan, finding the right product that's actually works for that plan is really important. And so I find that I don't have people worrying about this stuff because they see how it's going to work, and I show them how it's going to work, and they like the benefits. And I also say some annuity products don't even have fees. I mean, we have some we use actually don't have fees, and some that are just really minimal fees. So really, you need to consider the situation you're in and ask yourself, is this annuity right for me? Does it make sense for my situation? Most times we find that our clients need that additional source of protection to make sure they cover their protected income number. That was a second step. We've identified, we've protected. Now we need to shift our focus toward the reduced stage, which is minimizing your amount of income taxes so you avoid paying excessive fees. Income taxes are one of the largest expenses you're going to face in retirement. And it makes sense. Imagine this, another little story here. Imagine if you decide to go into a loan agreement with a bank. You go up to them and say, hey, I'd like to borrow some money. The bank says, sure, no problem. We can give you that money today. The next two questions you should ask them, number one is, when do I have to pay you back? Number two, what is the interest on the loan? And the bank says, well, you could pay me back at some future point in time, but I can't tell you at what interest rate I'm going to charge you. You see, when you pay me back that loan based on my needs at the time, I'll determine the rate I'm going to charge you then. If I need more, I'll charge you more. Now, if that was how a loan actually worked, would you enter in that agreement? Well, I hope not, and of course not. But that's exactly what you're doing with qualified accounts. You're postponing taxes to some future point in time. And when you pull that money out, the IRS is going to charge you a tax rate based on their needs at the time. And maybe you're thinking taxes can't go up much higher. We're currently in one of the highest tax rate environments. Well, let me show you something here. This graph is displaying the top marginal tax rates all the way from 1913 until now. You can see they've gone up usually in times of war. You look around World War II, the top marginal, if you look around World War II, the top marginal tax rates are up to 94%. Now it's gone steadily down throughout the years and has seemed to stay right around where it is today. I mean, the brackets shift a little bit, but they've varied a little bit. But if you look at the average, it's 57.3, well above where you are today. And just think about the enormous amount of debt we've been incurring in recent wars, financial bailouts, ever-increasing spending. And at some point in time, the IRS or the Congress may want to try to offset some of this debt. And I'm not one of these people that freak out over debt, and I don't want to freak you out over debt, but I do know tax brackets can change. I think a couple examples. I mean, if you look back at that 4% tax bracket, you actually had to make $5 million to hit that bracket at one point, right? And so back then, that was a ridiculous amount of money. But one year they needed more money. So what they do, they didn't change the rate. What they changed is the bracket. So you had to make 5 million, then they lowered it down to 300,000. So you got, and a similar thing happened in the 80s, kind of in the reverse. They lowered it. They lowered the top rate, and we came pretty close to flat tax, but the top tax bracket was about 28% back then, which is probably close to one of the lowest one we've ever had, but you only had to make about $29,000 to get in the top tax bracket. So it really did suck in a lot of people. So. But even if tax rates stay the same, your 3 largest tax deductions may be eliminated when you're in retirement. And you think about it. Your house should be maybe paid off or close to paid off. So there goes your mortgage deduction. Hopefully the kids have moved out of the house. So there goes your child exemption. And finally, you're not working anymore. So you're not putting money into qualified plans anymore. You're now going to be in a situation where you got to take it out and finally pay the taxes on those accounts. So by not having these 3 tax deductions, this may leave you at the same tax rate you're currently in, or even worse, higher. There's nothing worse than putting money away pre-tax at 20% and taking it out at 25%. That's not good. By not having these 3 deductions, again, this may leave you in a tougher spot. So where can you put your money to lower the impact on taxes? Well, there are 3 areas or buckets. I really use buckets a lot. The first bucket is your taxable bucket. Things like cash, savings, CDs in there, even stocks. I mean, investment type accounts. The water leaking out represents a tax you'd be paying for that bucket, because in this bucket, you're actually paying while it's growing. If it's growing, and I've even seen situations where if you have an investment account, you could actually end up losing money and paying taxes, because if you think about like even a CD, something as simple as a CD, as it grows, you get a 1099 at the end of the year and you pay taxes on it. Now, I always tell people, if you took the taxes out of the investment, your investment wouldn't look near as good. The same thing with investment accounts. You may get dividends off a stock. Well, even if you reinvest it, you get taxed on it. So trades, things like that. That's a taxable bucket. And even when you liquidate, you end up paying tax again to use it for income. Now, the second bucket is a tax deferred bucket, or what I think it's a better alternative to the taxable bucket. The type of money that you see in there are things like 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, what we call qualified money. The third bucket is where most people lack. This is a tax-free bucket. Now, there are certain accounts like 529 plans. However, you have to spend that for college tuition. So what else is there? 529 plans are kind of a Roth for educational purposes. Well, there is Roth. The Roth IRA is a tax advantage individual retirement account that has no income tax on withdrawals. This is a great option for anyone looking to prepare for retirement while diversifying tax risk. However, there are limitations to the contributions you can make. The limitations for this year are $6,000. There's also what they call a catch-up contribution for anyone over 50, which is now $7,000. And another drawback to the Roth IRA is if your household makes more than $206,000 of combined income, you're not even eligible for Roth IRA. You cannot contribute to this account. Well, why is that? Well, think about it. The IRS makes their revenues from taxes. And if you make that amount of income, you're likely paying a fair amount of taxes. And they want to make sure that get that money. So people with the tax problem aren't even able to contribute to this tax-free account. So, there are ways to, I do a lot of Roth conversions for people. So there's sort of a backdoor way to do all that, but another discussion. So what's another tax-free bucket? Another great option is a unique life insurance policy called Index Universal Life, or IUL for short. This is a Roth IRA-like account with a unique combination of tax-deferred growth. So your money inside grows tax-deferred, tax-free distributions. So you can take the money out and use it for retirement income or anything really. And it's tax-free. And you also get the tax-free wealth transfer. So the money inside that account transfers to your heirs, all tax-free. Also, this product doesn't participate directly in the stock market. So there's even a level of protection that's achieved when you have one of these. It really is, I think, one of the most flexible financial vehicles you'll find, the different things, the different applications for it. I like the term life insurance because a lot of people think of it more in terms of death insurance, because life insurance, you can actually get a lot of benefit from it while you're alive. But you also may be thinking, why haven't I heard of this before? Life insurance being used as a tax-free retirement vehicle for tax-free retirement income. Well, this is a representation of wage earners in America split into two groups. On the left is your top 25%. On the right is everyone else. The bottom 75%. Now, if you're a personality trying to sell the most amount of books or subscriptions or whatever and get the most eyes and ears on your shows, which group would you choose? Yeah, you're going to choose a bigger group. And that's exactly who these personalities talk to. They tell them, cut up the credit cards, don't invest in this product, and get their finances in order. Because they're talking to the group of people who have a cash flow problem, they're not making much money. So it's sound advice, although I'll say there's, I occasionally do work with people in that category. So there's other things you can do to help them too. But do you know the one big difference between these two groups are? Taxes. The top 25% of wage earners account for 86% of the tax revenues that's generated for the government. They pay the majority of the taxes in America. Now you can say, well, they should, they're the elite, they're the wealthy, but do you know how much you need to, I love answering this question, but do you know how much you need to make to be considered that 25% of income earners in America? $83,682. That's right, $83,682. That's why you've never heard of it. The personalities are not talking to you. They're talking to people with cash flow problems. By making this uncommon amount of income, as the government likes to think, you probably need to seek alternative financial strategies. And this includes maybe considering that IUL policy so you can receive that tax-free income during retirement. It's sort of funny. I actually read something in Orange County, California. $80,000 was still considered, was actually considered low income in Orange County. Amazing. Okay, so that was the third step. After you determine your current financial status, maximize sources of guaranteed lifetime income, minimize income taxes, we then move on to the fourth step, which is the invest stage. Now, I'm not saying investing is bad. Many of our clients, and myself included, are investing in the stock market. I'm in the market. I'm just saying, but I have those other things too. And I'm just saying we cannot look to take on more risk with your money at a time when you're depending on that money to be there. Only until you've achieved a level of protection during the first three steps, we can then go out and invest in the market and focus on getting the highest rate of return. Many advisors out there, as well the media, will tell you to invest as a first step. Well, it's actually the fourth step in our program. And honestly, we as investors are really bad at investing. I would say Americans buy high, sell low. This is a comparison of typical investor versus a benchmark S&P 500. Look at this 30-year investment. The market's doing fine, right? But us investors are averaging about 4.1% with their money over 30 years. And if you factor in like advisory fees, taxes, inflation, that number is really a whole lot closer to zero. But why does this happen to investors? It's because we as a society invest with our emotions. Look at this graph. We love to put our money in the market starting here, and then we would love to put our money, have it start here and grow all the way up to there, one straight shot. But that's never the case. What usually happens is the market goes like this, right? It goes up, it goes down, then up again, then down again, and that's the advice we all receive when the market is up. Well, our advice is to sell, right? We're supposed to be selling. That's when we can get the most return back. But what do? We buy. We buy because times are good. We want to get on the wave. But unfortunately, in many cases, we end up buying at the market's peak. So when the market dips, the typical investment advice would be, buy now, it's time to buy. It's time to buy. Prices are the cheapest. If you've ever been, and that's ever been in years, but what do we do as investors? Well, we sell. We get worried. We see our nest egg and the number going down and down. So we all sell. And what happens again? The market goes up and we buy. Market tanks and we sell. So, and I see this. And I get it. I get the panic. I get when you're seeing your money, you don't know what to do. And that's why having your money allocated properly really becomes a big deal. We actually went through this graph showing you the market performance from 1926 until now. As you can see in blue, there have been many bull markets. The market's up more than it's down. Times where share prices are rising and everyone's happy. And bear markets, the red, that's when the stock market fell. Every few years, the stock market corrects. And we see a drop in performance, and we just experienced that drop. Before then, we were in one of the longest bull runs in history. It was kind of remarkable. 10-year bull run. That doesn't happen very often. Throughout that time, everybody was wondering when the next big drop was going to happen. We didn't know when or how big, but I feel like this is not really the right question to be asking yourself. And I do get that question a lot. When do I think the market's going to correct? And no, if everybody knew that, nobody'd lose any money. The question really is not if, but how many times will the stock market drop during your retirement? The number of times a market drops has much more impact to how much money you'll have throughout your retirement, because every single time your savings drop, you're working with less money. So it's extremely difficult to build any type of momentum. Again, I'm not here to say investing's bad. All I'm saying is you need to eliminate the emotion from investing. Get yourself in a situation, get yourself set up where you don't have to worry about it. And if you do that by making sure you've done the first 3 steps, you do those first, determine your protected income number, have a base level protected lifetime income, and cover that number, and reduce your income taxes through a tax advantage products. We're essentially trying to emulate the retirement income model our parents and grandparents retired off of, having the majority of your retirement income through protected income sources, and then using investments to grow your surplus and enhance your overall lifestyle. With this approach, we can remove ourselves from the daily market swings and not have to worry about it when the next down market is going to happen. And we even have allocation strategies within the markets that I think are really important. Definitely have a kind of a bucket approach there too. Okay, so that was the 4th step. The 5th and final step is to manage. You need to make sure you're reviewing this plan on at least an annual basis. I mean, we meet with our clients on a regular basis to make sure nothing's in the world's changing, because as life changes, so is your plan. You may have envisioned retirement one way, but then you decide you want to pay for your child's wedding, or maybe pay for grandkids' college tuition, or maybe even go back into the workplace and start your own business. Or unfortunately, your plan may get derailed as you may end up being exposed to long-term care. Here at Surf City Financial Group, we really do conduct what we call annual performance reviews. Things we go over in a meeting is a summary of over the last year of your income plan. We also go over the overall performance of the plan as we compare it to what we originally discussed. And the last and most important thing we do is go through a checklist with you and reassess your needs as they may change from year to year. And I see that all the time. Whatever the case may be, you need to make sure you're reviewing your plan on at least on an annual basis and make sure it's performing as it should and aligns with your current needs at the time. So we talked about a lot today. We learned that the current retirement income model is kind of broken. And the only way for a successful retirement is through an income plan that protects you from those key risks, which again are longevity, stock market, income tax, inflation, and potential long-term care health cost. And we learned that retirement income framework is a 5-step roadmap that helps you spend confidently in retirement. Let me ask you a question. How many of you are maybe excited at what we talked about tonight? You can kind of raise your hand or just type something in, whatever. And let me ask you a question. How many are you may be overwhelmed? And I know this is like drinking from a fire hose. We're covering a lot of ground, and there's a lot of probably things that are a lot of questions in your mind. And if it's okay, I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes going over a report that can help you implement this framework right away. Imagine if you're boarding a plane. You sit down, buckle your seatbelt, and then you hear over the intercom, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. On behalf of the flight crew, let me welcome you aboard. We should touch down in Dallas about 5 p.m. local time." I say should, because we're going to be experiencing some turbulence along the way, and we have maybe a 20% probability rate of actually landing the plane. Well, would you stay on the plane? Of course not. You'd make a mad dash to the exit. Why? Because he told you the probability of successfully landing the plane wasn't really good, and I'd be fighting yet to get to that exit. We've essentially created a report that can do that for your retirement. I call it the Retirement Income Shortfall Analysis. In this report, we actually analyze your current retirement plan using the Retirement Income Framework and provide you with a rating from 1 to 100. We call it Retirement Success Score. We're also going to give you a yearly breakdown of your account withdrawals and notify you if you happen to experience an income shortfall. And if we see areas we can enhance your score, like things like Social Security strategies or certain insurance products, we'll make those recommendations and show you a suggested path. To get access to the report, go to the URL. Let's see. Go to that URL on the bottom of the screen. I'll put it back. I'll put it in again for you on the chat box. Okay. And you just go to surfcityfinancialgroup.com schedule. Okay, so if you just click on that link, you can go to the page. Now I'm going to go over to this report page by page, but rather I'm not going to go over it. I'd like to show you 3 specific examples on how we're able to help our clients increase their success score with this report. And these are some case studies we'll go over here a little bit. Ah, come on. Sorry about that. There we go. The first one was a couple nearing retirement. The husband was 55, the wife was 52. In the identify stage, we learned that the current income was $150,000 a year. and their desired retirement income was about $120,000 a year. They had investable assets of about $1 million and continued contributing to these investments every year, about a $30,000 a year contribution. We then moved into the protect step. This slide is going to show you a comparison of what they're currently doing versus what the report recommended they do. On the left side, you can see currently Social Security is the only protected income source of income. Because of that, I recommended they reposition $300,000 of the investable assets into a deferred fixed annuity. This would give them some returns similar or potentially even greater than what they're experiencing in their fixed income funds, plus guaranteed joint life income that has potential to increase over time. And that's the other nice thing about playing that way, because you can actually, unlike some types of things, you can actually have this income go on through 2 lives. Moving on to the reduced stage, we notice their assets are currently in a taxable and deferred buckets, and they were not utilizing any tax-free sources. I recommended redirecting that $30,000 they were saving annually and putting into an IUL. This would not only diversify their money in all 3 buckets, but the husband was underinsured. So the added insurance protection provided much more comfort over all those years. In the invest stage, 100% of their saving is currently exposed to the stock market volatility. By now having a good portion of money protected, I recommended to continue investing their surplus in the market to enhance overall wealth. Because of these moves and these efforts, here are the results. The report predicted a success score originally of 41%. And if they lived just 10 years longer than expected, the 41% would drop all the way down to 26%. They had very little money protected, which is a 22% you see there. On the right side, we're able to increase their score all the way up to 95%. Most retirement income would be protected, 82% of it, and look at the assets remaining, over 3.3 million, as compared to our current plan would be about 800,000. Now, the second scenario is a couple that in what I call the retirement red zone, the time where they're just a few years away from retirement. And I actually get people in retirement that we just have to reorganize things sometimes. And their main goal was to avoid running out of money. So that was our focus on report. The current plan had 32% success score, and they would end up running out of money, just like they're afraid of, and with no assets remaining. Our recommended scenario was able to achieve a score of 94%. Again, the majority of the retirement income was protected, 75% of it. The assets remaining, 353 at age 65. The last one, kind of near and dear to me, this was a widow who was retired. Her mother had recently passed after years of being in a nursing home. She was one driving her to and from the doctor's appointments, helping with the errands, and helping manage financial affairs. After going through that, her main goal was not to be financially or emotionally burdened to their kids. And we talked a little bit about that earlier. She also wanted to leave something behind if she could, rather than bills and expenses. As you see, her chance of success right now was a coin flip. We were able to help her get to up to 96% rating. Her protected income was now 88%. Her total income, and now she's able to leave a legacy for her children over double what she would have. This report is really powerful. I'd like to offer to everyone on this call for free, no obligation whatsoever, completely free. Consider this merely a second opinion on your retirement plan, no obligation. And I always find that kind of funny because I can't really make you do anything anyway. I mean, it's your money. I can just make recommendations. Please go to the website. I should say, go to That's surfsafefinancialgroup.com/schedule. And then we can create a custom report for you. We need so we need to have that appointment. Here's what will happen during the appointment. Be about 60 minutes long, give or take. How many questions? We'll gather your latest retirement account statements and help calculate your protected income number, much like we talked about in step one. And then we'll help you complete the assessment form that's needed for the report. I'll put together all the information we discussed during the appointment and run a custom analysis just for you. We'll review the report together in a follow-up meeting. In addition to the custom report, I'd like to help you out with the first step right away. I want to give everyone what I call retirement lifestyle worksheet. This will help estimate your retirement expenses and calculate your protected income number. It gets rid of that junk drawer that we talked about earlier. Even if you don't move forward with an appointment, just please fill in your name and email address, and I'll make sure we get that report, that worksheet out to you. Everybody tonight will get that worksheet. It's pretty handy worksheet. It's amazing how it actually brings people clarity when they're really tracking things. It helps us do what we do. So in summary, you're going to get a custom retirement income shortfall analysis that will generate for you once we've had an appointment. And you'll also receive our retirement lifestyle worksheet. We'll get that over to you tomorrow, and we'll help calculate your retirement expenses. Again, go to that link. Let's see there, surfsafefinancialgroup.com/schedule. Now, there are a few questions that come up often, that I kind of like to address. One is, what if I already work with an advisor? Well, that's fine. A lot of people I worked with an advisor, but we're not necessarily trying to replace what you currently have or moving any accounts around. This is just a report that's going to show you where you are today and where you could be. There's no obligation to move forward. We can't make you move forward unless you want to. And one thing I always tell people, whether you work with us or work with somebody else, make sure they're showing you how these things actually work and what they're all about and why are we recommending them. It is your money, after all, in your life. Will you be sold something at the appointment? No. The appointment you booked with me today is basically just a discovery meeting. We would sit down for that hour or so and learn about your situation, collect the necessary data to generate the report. The appointment is more about you than it's about us. Now, within the report, we may recommend certain strategies or products where you would have to make a decision, maybe make a purchase, move some money, but this is not something done within the first appointment. And again, there's absolutely no obligation to move forward unless you're absolutely comfortable with the recommendations we offer. Again, it's important that you make sure, I always say it's your money, not our money. Make sure we like to make sure people have an understanding of what's going on here. And lastly, how much in savings do I need to have? Because people think to work with someone who does what we do, you need to have buku bucks. And I have to say, I do know advisors that you have to have at least $1 million, some at least $500,000. It's just, but that's not the case. I work with people. I do work with some high net worth people. I work with a lot of business owners, which I really like because I find business owners are kind of a different breed, especially small business owners, because they're really busy with their business and are getting sold a lot of stuff. But I do work with a lot of middle class people too, which I actually, to be honest with you, take a lot of satisfaction out of getting middle class people in a good place. Now, I'm here to help everybody though, and that's my job. But people that have an open mind, want to learn about money, and and want to actually have a nice retirement and be efficient with their money. So go that website, SurfSafe Financial Group, and let's get you on the schedule. In conclusion, as I got into this business and kind of learned my craft, it was very much if I knew then what I know now. And this does kind of stay in my mind and gives me a lot of satisfaction that I can keep others out of the situation my mother and siblings ended up in. Having experienced it, I know it's not fun. So again, thank you very much for attending. I really appreciate you spending this time with us. I hope you got got something out of this, and I didn't bore the bejesus out of you. And you know, and if you have any questions, feel free.